Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Well, my guest this morning, let me start off from there. I got Dr. Kayode Opefa. He's a known person to us in the Lagos environment, has since moved to the federal, and now he's a consultant, sustainable mobility development expert. Thank you very much for coming on, Kayode.
Good morning.
Our pleasure. And also we have Comrade Segun Eson, Secretary General of the Nigerian Union of Railway Men.
Workers.
Because there might be women in there too.
They are.
There you go. Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Railway Workers. You're welcome, gentlemen. And the President was in town just last week to launch the Lagos-Ibadan rail line. And that's brought a lot sort of heightened interest. We've been hearing all along through the Minister of Transport the massive costs of this. But that particular segment that the President came to launch, it was like a showpiece, and it sort of signaled an interest in what's going on in the system entirely. Could I ask you, let me start with you, Dr. Opefa, how many miles of rail does Nigeria have? Did it have before the advent of this administration, and it now has as a result of this administration's addition?
Okay, good morning. I think we have about 3,500 kilometer narrow gauge lines
in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, prior to the current administration. And since this administration came into being, this administration has constructed additional 156 kilometers of double line in Lagos-Ibadan. It has also done Abuja-Kaduna of about 188 kilometers, and then the Abuja Metro line of about 45 kilometers. So altogether coming to about 400 new rail lines of standard gauge, and is in the process of rehabilitating additional 1,000 plus of narrow gauge.
Okay.
So put together by the end of, as of today, it has added about 300 to 400 kilometers of standard gauge, and by the end of the administration, by 2023, this administration hope to have added, rehabilitated another 1,000 narrow gauge. Not minding what will happen if the Kano Maradi, and then the Ibadan Kano, and then the Kano Kaduna lines are put in place.
We'll come to talk about Maradi because that is a question. Maradi is not in Nigeria, so we'll come to talk about that. It's in the Niger Republic. But we're talking about the rail system and the mileage and how many kilometers we have. And often you also hear people talk about standard gauge, narrow gauge, even though if you really wanted to get comprehensive, I understand that in some other jurisdictions, not in Nigeria, they even have zero gauge. But let me concern ourselves with what we have in Nigeria, standard gauge and narrow gauge. So what exactly are those? We've always had narrow gauge, right? Could you please explain narrow gauge, standard gauge?
All right. Narrow gauge, simply refers to whatever gauge, let me just start like that. Whatever gauge of a track you're talking about is actually talking about the
width,
wideness, the width of the track. Now, that of the narrow gauge is the 3.6 feet, in dimension.
Okay.
That is the distance between the track to the left to the right. Should be 3.6 feet. Okay. That is narrow gauge.
That is narrow.
And that is what we have in Nigerian Railway quite predominantly, and it runs to about 3,505 kilometers.
And that's what we inherited from the colonialists?
Precisely. And it started 1898 till date. So you can begin to see that it's been even far older than Nigeria by about 14 years or thereabout. And apart from the narrow gauge, we equally have the standard gauge, which, of course, is wider than the narrow gauge. But the beauty and some of the derivatives of the standard gauge is that it allows for, speedy movement of, trains, as well as the turnaround time gets improved. Because standard gauge is faster than narrow gauge.
And is it more difficult for the standard gauge to maneuver around tight corners, and is it easier for the narrow gauge to negotiate such?
You see, narrow gauge those days was actually put in place predominantly for the reason of, connecting all those agrarian, areas where the British colonial administration, we had them in Nigeria, could, explore those places of the agrarian, produce. So that made the narrow gauge to go zigzag. You understand? And probably because of the level of technology then, they couldn't blast the stones and all of that. So the track, you see it moving this way, even, having
it was following the contours of the land.
Oh, exactly. But standard gauge, because of the speed that we want to attain, it has to be very, very straight running.
Yeah.
And it will have to be on a very flat terrain. So everything boils down to increasing the speed. But if you look at the movement of the train on the narrow gauge, because of the steep, because of the down gradient, because of the curves, all these have very serious effect on the speed of the train on the narrow gauge. So that makes the difference.
Well, it has an effect on the speed of the train. Would it also have an effect on the capacity, the load-bearing capacity?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I'm imagining now that the wider gauge will be able to do more in terms of weight.
Move faster. And in terms of input-output, achieve more. However, the narrow gauge too will work to what you want it to work. Because if you are running an intra-city rail, for example, even if you have a standard gauge, do you want to go at 100 kilometers per hour? Definitely not, because you have to stop at series of stops. So your standard gauge and your narrow gauge will be moving at the same speed.
So we get ahead of ourselves if we begin to talk about bullet trains simply because we've seen them elsewhere. We get ahead of ourselves. So let's just limit ourselves to here. Now, in terms of Nigeria here, there are a number of lines, and maybe you could explain it a bit. We hear about there's the Western line, there's the Central line, there's the Eastern line. Are there more than those three?
No, we have Eastern line, Western line, Central line, and there are spurs. You have Shokoto? Where is that Central line that spurs out of the
Karam branch line? Then we have the spur line that connects the Western line with the Eastern line from Kaduna Junction to Kafansha Junction.
Talking about Central line now, that's Warri ultimately to Abuja, but for the moment to Itakwe.
Itakwe, yeah.
But
and it's standard gauge.
And it is standard gauge. Okay. Now, the Western line, Lagos to Kano,
yeah.
right? That is standard gauge.
Gauge.
Now, the Eastern line is Port Harcourt to
Lagos to Kano currently exists. There is a narrow gauge, Lagos to Kano. So there is a new line being constructed, Lagos to Kano again, standard gauge. That one, the Lagos to Ibadan, part of it has been completed. So what the president came to commission, it's actually a brand new rail line from Lagos to Ibadan.
Standard gauge.
Now, the next stage is the Ibadan to Kano and the Kaduna Kano, and to be standard gauge. So you will have a Lagos Kano narrow gauge. We also have a Lagos Kano standard gauge.
And then Eastern line, that's Port Harcourt.
That's going to be rehabilitation of the Eastern. It's going to be rehabilitation of the existing narrow gauge.
Of the existing narrow gauge.
The implementation of the standard gauge, I think the minister explained, due to opportunity cost.
Now, you said we had what, 3,500 kilometers? Is it kilometers or miles?
Kilometers.
Kilometers of rail in narrow gauge, and now there's all the additions are standard gauge.
Of course.
But we were also saying that the narrow gauge is still not only in Nigeria, but it is well known outside of Nigeria. In fact, a number of countries are still on standard gauge. Now, I want to ask one question just before we go any further. In terms of rail, considering everything that the Buhari administration is doing and all of that, and the Minister of Transportation, where do we place in our region of Africa, in West Africa? Where do you think our rail places? Do we have the widest tracks? or who is in? I think Egypt in the north, but we're not talking about North Africa now. I think Egypt in North Africa is known as the reigning champion. Where would we rate?
Well, if we are looking at that, I would rather say we are progressing. We are progressing very, very steadily. Because the narrow gauge we're talking about, which is in 3,505 kilometers, actually started in 1898 with just 193 kilometers. Like history is repeating itself. That was how narrow gauge 2 started, from Lagos to Ibadan, before it, got distributed to everywhere it is now. Predominantly, that is our track pattern. But right now, within the few past governments to this present one that we've had, we've been able to add about 400 to 500 kilometers of standard gauge, which is a very clear shift from where we are. So I would rather not be so, more concerned about rating us, but to conclude that we are steadily building. And if the tempo is kept, that is, as this government has done its bit, very beautiful bit, and another government comes in, and there is a continuity of rail transport infrastructure development, then we can now start talking about.
We're seeing that was when the president went there. He was just coming off a coach there, and I hear, I haven't actually, done a ride on it yet. I hear that these are air-conditioned coaches.
Of course.
You say, of course, all of them are air-conditioned. Now, two things want to come out here. One, I imagine that it's part of the whole massive infrastructural development program of the Buhari administration. How is this going to impact the people? Because at the end of the day, people always want to know, how is this benefiting me? How is it impacting me? Is this of a sufficient scale to appreciably affect road transportation? That is, if people who need to go from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, from Lagos to Ibadan, or Lagos to Kano, do you see a lightening of road transportation as a result of the rail?
Thank you. Before I answer that question, let me make a correction. The last time I said about 400 addition, I think it's actually, the minister reported about 900 kilometers added in one of his press statements. And that is because I didn't add the Warri Itakpe, which is over 300 kilometers plus.
That's the central line.
The central line. And also the fact that the Lagos Ibadan is, what do you call it, double track. So you have to calculate that. I think it's close to 900 added by this administration. Now to the question precisely. You see, what really is the driver for economic development on that when you talk of infrastructure? And rail and road will serve different purposes. For movement of cargo that are heavy and for long distances, you need rail more than you need road. It doesn't mean the road cannot do the same job, but for efficiency, you need the rail. And that is why the colonial masters emphasize rail in developing Nigeria. They have economics. That's why you have Zungeru, Damaturu, all those places where you have a rail in those days, why? Because there are agricultural and mineral resources to pay for it. Now, how does it impact the ordinary common man? Now you have choices. I give you a typical example. During the last, was it Easter holiday or Christmas? The people in Warri, in Abuja, for them to take a bus is about 10,000 naira from Abuja to Warri. So what they did was some of them took bus from Abuja to Lokoja at Itakwe, and they took the train from Itakwe to Warri, and they spent 4,000 naira. And they got to Warri faster than they would have gotten to Warri. So they spend less money, they move faster, they are more comfortable, then they have better quality life. Now, when you now talk of Lagos, Ibadan, if I go on the road, I may have it done in 2 hours. If there are issues on the road, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever. But don't forget, I will sit in the car, there will be a driver, or I take a public. But when you take the train, you relax. You can read your book, you can do studies, you can sleep, and you can close your eyes. It is relatively safer. And at the end of the day, you get better mileage for your comfort.
But is the rail in Nigeria, at this stage of its development, really for the ordinary man? Let me not say the common man. Is it for the ordinary man? Can he really afford it, given what the ordinary man now does by way of transportation?
Beautiful. Rail is a leveler. Whether you're a rich man, you're a poor, other man, I don't think we should call anybody poor. Whether you're a rich man or you enter the train, if it is intra-city train, you all hang up. If it is intercity train where there are category of coaches, you pay what you can afford. But the thing there is that everybody will be comfortable. The minimum standard we apply to everybody is air conditioned, the seats are comfortable, and you get to the destination the same time.
Okay, well, maybe we'll stay on this a bit because I'm close to the Agege area in Lagos, and a site that you see with the when the train comes through Agege, Ricardo knows where I'm going. You see people like the pictures you see coming out of maybe rural India, I don't know, where there are more passengers on the roof of the coaches than are actually in the coaches. And people are hanging all over the place. Now, I'm just guessing and imagining that this is a far cry. Where we are now is a far cry. You probably can't ride on the roofs.
Well, right now, I'm not seeing the repetition of such on the Sada gauge. You know, what made that be possible on the narrow gauge is because when the British were building the railway, they did not take into consideration the need to block the porosity of the track corridor. And coupled with the fact that the train we're operating then is a narrow gauge train, it really doesn't move fastly. Even a pregnant woman can catch it in motion. And there is no restriction as to who comes in. There is no access control into the station environment and all of that. So it is possible for any of those boys that go on the rooftop to get on the train, even while in motion, taking off from one station to another. So that's why you see them, probably for reason of trying to avoid the ticketing, or probably to just go and enjoy themselves over there. But on where we are, it's not really likely going to be like that, because I am drawing this from what I've seen of Lagos, Abuja, Kaduna, as well as Warri, Itakwe, where the corridors are very perfectly, under access control. So if you don't have any business to do with the train, if you are not fulfilled all righteousness that will get you on the train, you can't be on the train, let alone get on the rooftop.
And I would have liked to also hear that you can't be in the railway station if you don't have any business with railway or if traveling. Because our people move in. Hawkers will move in. Even beggars will move in.
When the British were around, and just around the time we took over from them, if you don't have your platform ticket, you cannot mount the platform of the train. If you come on the platform of the station without your platform ticket, you'll be arrested.
And just to add, okay, go ahead.
Sure, please.
Just to add is just that it's also an issue of capacity. It's a demand and supply issue. More people needs to move, and there is no adequate rate. For too many long years, we abandoned improvement on the rail system. And when Obasanjo government came, there was a modernization program. And it dragged until this government came and completed the Abuja Canal. So what if there are coaches and the train system will move at periodic and definite times, that number of people on the rooftop too will reduce. In addition to the issue of the access control, which is now available at all the new stations being constructed. So beyond that, I believe the Nigerian Railway is also looking to getting more. Now they won't be running the narrow gauge of the Lagos Ibadan as you think. It will just look like they will be running the Lagos Ibadan as a intercity rail, while the Lagos state government is now planning to take over that aspect of the Ijoko or Agbado to Ebute-Metta by bringing in the red line. So Lagos state government will now do the bus stop to bus stop to bus stop. They are coming with adequate.
This can get confusing if you're not very used to railway. The red line is one of the lines that Lagos state, in its own private, system. They have the red line, they have the blue line,
the green line,
the green line. So just to understand that is a subset, so to speak. You are now saying that Lagos state will.
No, because the corridor on that Lagos Ibadan corridor now, from I think is Ijoko or Agbado, you will see the two lines. So you will see the narrow gauge, you will see the standard gauge. Now, currently, Nigerian Railway is running the Agbado to, is it Ido? They are running the narrow gauge. That's the one you say people climb on top. And that has capacity issue because you need more coaches to run frequently. Now, but the Lagos Ibadan is going to run from Ibadan to Abekuta, through Odo, Apalanto. It's not going to stop at Oshodi. You get, so it's not going to stop at Oshodi, Yaba and the rest. So, but the narrow gauge will still be running, doing that. However, Lagos State government has come up for an improvement on that. The Lagos Red Line now, we run that same Agbado to Onyibo on the same standard gauge with spots of different bus stops.
Okay.
I mean train stops.
Train stops.
So
I can relate to that.
By 2022, I think this issue of capacity on that line will have almost.
We've used the words capacity. You've used the words access, and I was interested really in knowing how accessible will this really be to Nigerian commuters or travelers from a point of view of ticket prices. But before you answer that, Bobby has come on the line. Good morning, Bobby.
Yeah, good morning. Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead. You had a question or observation?
Yes, sir. I have an observation, sir.
Okay.
And on the serious note, I just have to tell you, this is the first time that I'm appreciating what the government is doing.
This is the first time. The first time you are appreciating the government.
I'm appreciating what the government of Buhari is doing on a very serious note.
Okay.
Then, secondly, I remember when we were kids, we used the railway in transporting petroleum products, petrols, human beings, and actually it was perfectly okay. Then my other issue is I wish this same issue will be something when the previous government comes inside. I think it's perfect and it's a very good job. Thank you so much and may God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much. God bless you as well. Yeah, so I was going to ask, maybe Dr. Pef, I should take this, I don't know, maybe. What will it cost? Because, as you know, Nigerians are very, very sensitive to price movements, very, very sensitive. There's the other news where that 7 million more Nigerians have joined the poverty line. Prices never go down, they're always going up. The prices I'm hearing, you tell me what the prices are. I understand there are 3 categories of prices for the passenger aspect of it. What are those prices?
We have, I think just as it's showing on the screen.
There you go.
We have the first class 6,000 as you've seen it. And the 2,500 is the one I would take. If I take the train.
Because in any case, you are enjoying the same air conditioner of first class.
But it's just because of class difference. And that's what you get in transportation. It's the same thing when you take the aircraft, the same thing when you take taxi or you take bus. So there are options. So but I believe the 2005 is as good. And by the time it ramps up and you have more economy of scale, I won't be surprised if this price is down. But don't forget also, the price of the road also will keep going on with the price, with the cost of living. And
Bernard, good morning and thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good calling. I like the topic and everything that has been going on. I really commend the government. The last time I took the train from on my way to Zaria, I took the train from Abuja to Kaduna. It was well. But I just want to keep on what Dr. Kayode said. So he mentioned the opportunity cost. So I was thinking, the government took loans to put this infrastructure in place. So I was thinking, if you're going by the principle of opportunity cost, there are areas that the government would have concentrated more on that will be able to generate more funds to be able to pay back the loan. Like I heard the minister in one of his press conferences speaking about the rail line from Maiduguri to Port Harcourt. I was thinking, if we go by that principle of opportunity cost, what would that one benefit the Nigerian public, or how will that one be able to pay back the loans compared to maybe a line from Lagos to the east, to decongest the port? You know, so I think in this that should be one of the priorities of the government. The line from Lagos to the east to decongest the port, because you can imagine the mess that is going on at the Apapa Wharf. You know, everybody relies on the road to take their containers down to the east. And you know, these are the people that do this importation majorly. So I'm thinking that the government will put every sentiment aside and then concentrate on those lines that will benefit the Nigerian public and also be able to pay back the loans.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Bernard. Would you like to take that?
I think I want to appreciate his comment, but I think it's not exactly correct. It's not exactly right. I hope he's listening to my response. One, there is the Lagos Calabar line that is called the coastal line. There is a coastal line also in plan. That's the Lagos Calabar. We missed it out while we are talking of the other part of the eastern line.
Eastern line.
There is a line that is going from Lagos to Calabar, but
narrow gauge too.
No, standard gauge.
Oh, that is standard
gauge. That one too is coming up. Now, when you pick opportunity cost, you look at which one is ready. It's not just monetary terms. Now, rail will be more of no rail system. Most rail system will not balance the cost of its operation and construction from picking passengers. They will pick more of cargo to balance. Then there is the side attraction, real estate around it. So there is a social aspect of rail and infrastructure provision. It's not just Naira and Kobo.
Okay.
Now, coming to the east, doing the one that is the Lagos Ibadan can take your goods to Ibadan, can take your goods to Abeokuta, can take your goods to Babalanto. That is about 30% of cargo required will go to the southwest. Now, train cannot get to every corner of your location because of flexibility. So when you now get to one point, you can use road. There is no cargo that leaves the port that will not end up on the road. We need to also understand that. So the government is aware of what is said. But as of today, the easiest line, the one that is most convenient to build is the Lagos Ibadan. Now, the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri is also going to pass through Enugu, Aba, Owerri. Then the Lagos Calabar will now link Warri, and then you move from there. So it is an holistic plan, but you pick them as it is necessary and it is expedient.
Okay. Mr. Oyewole in Ikorodu, good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning.
Oh, it's a lady. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, sir. Please, I would like to talk to one of your guests there.
Well, talk to us on the program. Go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Sir, the one talking about the railroad, and the economy is 2.5 from Lagos to Ibadan. Why, even if you go by the road, the costliest you can get is 1.5. Even from Yaba in Lagos to Abuja, to Ibadan, is 2,000. How many Nigerians can afford this economy? I think the government is just suffering us. Because everything is so expensive and the money is not forthcoming. They keep borrowing. Even if they are borrowing, the masses should be able to enjoy because of the borrowing. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you very much for calling in, Madam Oyewole. Well, I'll just leave that. We have heard that comment, but I wanted to also, go to, and Kade had already touched on it. Would this be, so to say, people-centric or goods-centric? You move goods. I wanted to know how much of that, because he spoke about the trailers being off the road. The things that trailers move, generally speaking, well, apart from fuel and gas, there's cattle, there's cement, there used to be cocoa. I don't know if there still is cocoa. I remember my days as a tally clerk in MPA. Exactly. So that was what we were tallying. You tally all sorts of sacks that will be coming into place. So, but now that you're talking about these executive cabins with air conditioner and all of that, we haven't seen pictures or demonstrations of the goods cargo, the goods moving, on these trains.
Well, like my comrade rightly said, you see, running passenger train I'll describe it as political. Political
Okay.
in the sense
Like the one that we're seeing here. That's a passenger train.
Passenger train. Is it passenger
This is not
train?
passenger,
No, this
this
is not
cargo.
passenger. This is cargo.
This is cargo.
Oh, okay,
We're
okay.
going to explain it.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
cargo train.
Now I
This is
can
a new
see.
one. It's cargo.
Oh, okay,
This
is
is
that
the
the one the
that
president
moved, not the one the president had.
Okay,
On that
it's
day,
like-
he
it
launched
looks like
both.
that was editing, right?
No, he launched both, but it was the passenger one he entered.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
So as I was saying, passenger train is more like a political train. Why I say that is people go to places to, mention that railway is working and functioning. That's why we have to run the passenger train. But what actually attracts higher revenue to railway as an operator of a rail transport system is taking freight trains. It's running freight trains, because the amount of money you are going to make on just one single train, goods train of about 10, 15 bogies, 10, 15 carriers, is going to be...
You were going to be technical there, right? So you now came down to everybody else's level.
It's going to be more than what passenger train can earn in another 6 months. But
And what are the cargoes that they actually will be freighting?
the cargoes, it comes in whatever you want
Because
to move, be it cows, be it palletized items, be it containerized items.
Okay.
Anything.
Are they refrigerated?
Of course, yes.
you know.
If you want to move refrigerated items, of course, we do have all those stuffs. But I'm talking of
I'm going
goods train generally.
I'm going to come back to you so you can continue, because I don't want to miss Awa, who has called in from Calabar.
Okay.
Good morning, Awa. Awa, in Calabar. Please continue.
All right. Now, what I'm trying to say here is, if the government really wants to get its act right on this pricing system, they should, prioritize goods train as well as passenger train in a way that if it is for revenue making, you concentrate on goods train. But railway passenger train exclusively anywhere is seen as a social service renderer,
Okay.
which of course should help people to move at the cheapest amount of, even right from what the Statutory Act of Parliament of 1955, which is otherwise called the Railway Act of 1955, says. It clearly says that the pricing of passenger trains or whatever should be at such cheap and affordable level. You understand? So what I'm trying to say here is that passenger train must be very relatively cheap.
Okay.
And the government can take good advantage of both sides. We understand.
Okay. Sorry, I understand Awa is back on. Good morning, Awa, in Calabar.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please, Awa.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, I think I have to appreciate the government of the day for all it has been doing to the Nigerian people. Yes, sir. I am talking about appreciating the government.
Please carry on and don't wait. Carry on and don't wait.
Yes, but there's one thing I want to observe, sir. Yes, what I want to observe is about the people of Ugoja and the people of Ikom. Yes, the people of Ikom and the people of Abakaliki. Yeah, all these things people have been mentioning, we've not heard you talk about any rail connecting these areas. And these are areas that are providing a lot Nigerian people.
Okay.
If you look at what comes from Ikom, what comes from Ogoja, what comes from Abakaliki, and then the distance apart from there to Makurdi and from there to Calabar is about 400, 300 kilometers apart. I think the government needs to do something about that.
All right.
And more importantly, the government needs to think about how to reactivate Calabar seaport to ensure that this place becomes more viable. You are talking about the congestion of seaport in Lagos, and the one in Calabar is lying more about.
All right.
It's a problem.
I want to thank you very much, Mr. Awa. Thank you very much. I've got to let go of you now, so we can address some of the issues you raised. Kaude, would you like to take that? Maybe you add to it.
I think the comrade answered it. Just for me to add that, yeah, every part of Nigeria needs the rail, and you have to make resources available. Just for us to remember that prior to this administration, there was a plan, 20-year plan, rail modernization, and nothing happened except the Kaduna Abuja part of the plan which the government completed. So it's going to get to everywhere. Now, like we said, there is a Lagos Calabar rail that is also there. Then Coastal the Eastern Line corridor, which just that we didn't mention, is going to pass through all this town, and it has been awarded for rehabilitation. Now, on the cargo, let me just inform, as I'm speaking to you, on a daily basis, even before the standard gauge, train moves cargo to Apapa port, in and out of
exactly.
Apapa port. What you have delaying it is that when they get into the port, there is an efficiency issue of discharging the cargo so that they can go many runs. So what the government has also done is to now do another track, that is the standard gauge, that now enters the port and branches out to about 3 different terminals. So they've increased the efficiency. So more containers will leave the port on a daily basis. And they've also acquired wagons to drive those containers. They've also acquired, like the one you saw in that picture, to take like farm produce and bulk products. And I'm also aware that the DPR sometimes publish that they are also looking at the possibility of reviving moving petroleum products or some of them with the trade. So it is a work in progress. It's going to get to every part of Nigeria.
Indeed, we will. Yeah. And now the other thing is, we saw some distressing pictures online, social media, and I believe those pictures are real, of sabotage done to rail lines. The whole thing is still new. The president has only just come and launched a certain segment of it, yet you see instances of clear sabotage. This is, how widespread is that sort of a thing?
You see, let me start by first of all condemning the act. It is very, very unhelpful to the growth of rail transport system in the country, and it's very, very disingenuous on the part of whoever that is involved in such vandalization or sabotaging the effort of the government in turning around the rail transport system. Because it's like you are stealing from yourself and destroying your own personal property.
But is it limited? Hopefully this is not
It is not. But what I think is more...
Because there used to be rail police.
Responsible.
There used to be rail police, you know, so
we still have them till now. But what I think is making it to be possible, I'm not justifying it. I'm only looking at why is it rampant. It is because the trains haven't actually been running optimally for a long time.
Okay.
So if the track is left unoccupied, you see pilferers here and there. But I think if I should go further, I want to appreciate the pronouncement of the Honorable Minister of Transport in that regard, that there should be need for us to look, closely to the matter with a view to hanging whoever that is guilty of such
the maximum penalty.
In fact,
in frustration.
If you are in the system, you will know what it means, to lose those things to vandals.
Now, Mazi Okorafo, apologies for keeping you waiting. Go ahead now, sir. Mazi Okorafo. Mazi Okorafo. In Arochukwu, apologies for keeping you waiting. Go ahead now, sir.
Good morning, sir. Jerry. Good morning, I guess, in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Honestly speaking, there is need for the federal government to try as much as possible to see what they can do about the security of the rail line. Like what they showed us yesterday on television, and people who went to start losing all this rail line, which is not possible, which is not good. So Nigeria is not any place that the rail line is passing, let the community provide security to guide all those things, because that is our property, our own heritage. Now I want to find out from our guests. Lagos to Aba, Lagos to Aba, Aba to Kano, Kano to Maiduguri, and Aba to Maiduguri. You see, Aba is a hub center. As far as Nigeria is concerned, there is nothing you are looking for in Nigeria that you cannot get in terms of production of any kind, either natural or artificial. But the question now is this: how do people carry all these things to all these other states at a cheaper rate? It's through the rail. But what is the government doing? Even Aruchuku to Calabar, I've not seen whether you say in your paper you have anything that has to do with Omar and Aruchuku. People are there. And from Omar, for us, we didn't come to Calabar and Bible. I don't know whether the federal government has something there, because my main concern is this: the rail line, the authority concern should find a lasting solution to getting all those, because what they showed us on television, where people come and lose this and steal it, and go and give it to people who are, they say they have steel industry. For what reason? Nigeria proper, our own problem, that people are going to, and somebody using it as its own raw material. It is not healthy. Security is very, very important to that daylight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mazi. You know, there's so much to talk about. Transport, the whole transport field is so very wide. We can only take, unfortunately, in a 1 hour program, just a bit of it. Now, the whole matter about sustainability, how this will be sustained, because for a long while there was neglect. Now the Buhari administration has come on and picked up, the strings, and so here we are now. What are your thoughts about sustainability, since that's your specialty?
I'm going to start by saying this same President Muhammadu Buhari, when he was Minister for Petroleum, constructed the pipelines to move petroleum products, and we know the state of those pipelines. So it's not that NNPC cannot manage this pipeline. It is the issue of vandalization. Now, sustainability. Let's also put it on record. The Nigerian Railway Corporation is a new railway corporation.
Okay.
And they have been running the Abuja-Kaduna rail. They've been running, and they are the one running this Lagos-Ibadan rail. And the Abuja-Kaduna rail is running fine. And what that tells us is that it is the human capacity and the funding. And we are told by the minister that $150 million
yes.
so far have been paid
yes.
out of the loan. That tells you that it means that the people running the railway for now are competent. So I think we should give them the benefit of doubt.
And in that connection, I remember reading that the minister was quite angry that when the president came, everywhere was just clean.
That's Atapapa.
Everything that should
so
be...
it is we.
Things that shouldn't be there were not there, and etc. So the minister has concluded that it is the management. Yeah. It is the management of those facilities that I'm going to...
I've always said that.
Mr. Adebanjo in Kaduna, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning to the guests in the studio.
Good morning, sir.
I want to actually commend the federal government for this giant stride in rail transportation system. Just like the guest has said, we need to see where petrol has been ferried from different parts of this country and goods. But the problem I have with all Nigeria is this maintenance culture. Just like you have the state governors, taken out of their security vote to buy vehicles for the police. But in the next 3-6 months, you come back to see this same vehicle, they are in a sorry state. Wonderful infrastructure, but how do we maintain this infrastructure? I think that is my concern. Good morning and have a pleasant day.
Thank you, Mr. Adebanjo, for calling in. There are provisions for security, right?
There are provisions, but I think that particular aspect, the railway has, a security prescription for it. Why I'm saying that is, in the railway of old, if you want to do recruitment of workers, particularly those that are in charge of patrolling the track and the linesmen, we call them lengthmen. You understand? You do the employment, within the locality where those people are from. Let me make an example. You want to employ on Lagos to, maybe from Ebutimeta to Agbado now. You should employ from within that axis men that will come on the patrolling. But a situation where you employ from Ilori, for example, or from Karan Amoda, and you are placing these people you are bringing from these places to come and patrol Lagos to Ibadan train, rail track, it will be very difficult for them. So that's what we describe as catchment area. So if we have all this, one, the people will be very ever readily available to take care of the tracks, number one. Number two, they will see the tracks as their property. They will take ownership. And they will always be there 25 hours a day, not even 24 hours. And will take ownership and will, of course, protect it. But a situation where they have to come from very far away to come and do their job, of patrolling the track, it becomes very difficult. And so some people have to be there even before the police.
Okay.
Then
the people, the passenger security. I think I was hearing that there will always be armed personnel on board. Would you like to clarify that whole area?
I'm aware there is the Railway Police Command.
Okay.
There is a Commissioner of Police for Railway.
Okay.
There is also equivalent in Civil Defense for Railway now.
A whole command.
Then the Railway Corporation also, I understand, have their own additional, like what was referred to. They call linemen, or what do you call them?
Lengthmen.
Lengthmen who walked around the track. Then there's also community engagement that we need to put in place. So it is more about we. So, only speaking, that was a derailment. Was it in March or February in Oshobo? Because of some people vandalized the rail track. So it is, all of us have to take responsibility. But as long as the rain is running regularly, you will reduce the incidence of vandalization. Then we also need
You're talking about vandalization. So maybe it's because we're because we're not at war. Because it looks very much like sabotage. This is a brand new thing. Okay. This is going to cost us everything. And so you can only look at whatever I call it.
Okay. Economic sabotage.
Yeah. That's another way of looking at it.
I want to add is this.
Could you just give me a second, because Mr. Yakub has also been holding on for a while, for which I apologize. Good morning, Mr. Yakub.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you.
Then good morning to Honorable Karen, your prefer, and the honorary gentleman in the studio.
That is Comrade Esson.
Yes, Comrade Esson.
I'm also Comrade now.
Okay, yes.
We have put doctor for you, so we took away the Comrade.
It is unfortunate that this government have done a lot of things in terms of infrastructure. But the fortunate thing is that the insecurity does not make Nigerian citizens know that this government has done a lot of things. Because
we've been so distracted by the insecurity issue.
Exactly, because the insecurity is telling on our face. So that is why we don't see a lot of work that this government has done. And then even the government is doing this, and then failure to secure Nigerian citizens, we will not see it. But I pray to God Almighty Allah to help this government to solve the problem of insecurity. And then you are talking about vandalize. It is going to be very, very difficult to police that rain. How many kilometers of the rain you want to police? In fact, we don't have
enough. It's like the problem with patrolling Nigeria's borders.
Exactly. So clear for policing this way. The Nigerian government should be able to deploy technical something in order to protect this way. Because if you want to use human beings to protect this, it is going to be very, very difficult. Because you have a lot of athlete people. If they are not athletes and dissecting people, you will not think in your mind that this rain that's doing for you in order for you to move from one state to another freely. And now you have it in your mind and go and destroy that same rain line. If it take a correct person, somebody that does not think right, to do such things, it is only God that allow him. But we are afraid that the government will not do something for us. Now the government does something, you still go there and disrupt it. It is uncomfortable. Yes. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakub. I imagine technology will also play a part in this. The government can monitor from afar.
The Abuja Metro, I'm aware it has technology all through the track. They can see from the control room. And I won't be surprised if the current Lagos Ibadan. Okay, sorry. There's another property within the railway. When you enter the main building, there's a property to your left. That's the command and control center. I believe that center will manage the technology, and it has to be deployed.
Let's spend a few minutes on Maradi in Niger Republic. Not everybody understands exactly the significance of that particular move. The president has explained it when he was asked the question by Arise TV journalists. Would you like to just talk about that and what Nigerians need to know about why? Because I've heard people say, why are you concentrating so much on another country when we ourselves hardly have we belly full? It has an explanation.
Like you said, the president has
addressed it,
and the Minister of Transport too has addressed this issue at many opportunities. Let me say this. When I got this information first, my intention was to criticize it and make a public statement among friends who asked me. And I decided to investigate. So I went into literature. Let me tell you what I found out.
Very briefly,
it is
please,
not a new,
because someone is waiting on the
It is not
phone.
a new program. It's been there since 2003, and even, I mean, within the Nigerian
So they bring in cattle, from there?
In 2006. So that route is the food security zone for West Africa.
Food security zone for West Africa
in terms of cattle and cereal.
Okay.
Livestock and
you know,
cereal.
I'm going to interrupt. I know there's more, but Ada is on the line. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning, Ada from Jos. Good morning to your guests.
Yes, thank you.
Let me help your discussion about the Niger one. Mr. President told us why now. He said that their neighbors and their landlords, so they have to help them out if you want to live in peace. And then he has first cousins there. So let's leave it at that. Then again, all the satellites of the rail lines, there should be some technology that can raise an alarm when somebody touches any of those things. I think that's the way we should go. Then let it be owned by the community, just like one of your guests said. When the community owns it, it's better. And that's the company that is owning it must have incentives. So there's no free lunch in Freetown. Let me stop there. You're running out of time. God bless you. Let's not give up on Nigeria.
Thank you very, very much. It's interesting. People are phoning in, people who have been critical in the past, which is their entire right to be, are now saying, well, you know, it must be said, I've got to commend this administration for this kind of stuff that they're doing. But maybe we've been so distracted by other pressing concerns as well. There's so many other questions we would have liked you to address, gentlemen, but time is not our friend at all. And so I'm going to have to thank you, Dr. Kayode Okwefa, or if you want the other way around, Comrade Kayode Okwefa, PhD, and Comrade Shegun Eson, Secretary General, Nigerian Union of Railway Men. Thank you. No, railway workers. Yeah. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That's our program today. You know, join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.